All right. All right. So let's go ahead and this thing. Yeah. So the book I'm going to refer to most today, yeah, is this book, History of the Religions of the Caribbean. All right. And all I really want to do is just demonstrate that we have a number of African spiritual traditions. I'm not going to go into them today. We're going to see if that. Yeah. Okay, Muela. Right. Okay, cool. That's why I know it's still, if I ask these questions. So it's the like Dominica, St. Lucia, Haiti type vibes. All right, cool. So it's the broken African French with the French. All right, but yeah, this book, History of the Religions of the Caribbean by Dale Bisnoff. Yeah, it's a very useful book still. It goes into some useful information and an overview. Yeah, it doesn't just focus on African spiritual intentions. It talks about Christianity. It talks about Islam and even the religions that were brought from Asia. Yeah, like the Sikh and the Hindu and all them something there. So it's a very useful overview of these things. Yeah. So big up to my brothers and sisters from Dominica and St. Lucia and in place there. My love, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so he begins, as far as I'm gonna quote today, yeah. Like I said, we're not gonna be here long. I just wanted to preview the thing and speak about some of the African spiritual retentions in the Caribbean within this energy that I've been wrapped up in for the last week or so. All right. So he says indigenous African religions, however, did survive the difficulties of estate life. This testified to the vitality of those beliefs and to the reality of the Weltanschauung, yeah, which just means worldview, all right? Which the world is it's a German word. Weltanschauung is a German word which means worldview, yeah. The world picture which those beliefs provided for the Africans in their homeland. All right. So he's saying here that the African spiritual systems that came to the Caribbean, yeah, had a particular worldview, yeah. They had similar cosmology, similar ethics, yeah, similar morals, similar rituals, similar ways of looking at the cosmos, ways of looking at the human being, all right? And that is considered to be a Weltanschauung or worldview or world picture, all right? And so he said, which those beliefs provided for the Africans in their homeland. In the Caribbean, however, African religious ideas were to undergo significant changes, but they remained recognizably African in structure. Two factors were mainly responsible for these changes. In the first place, African religious ideas were capable of modification. Very important, yeah, capable of modification, all right, in response to new circumstances of estate life. Secondly, the practice of African religion was frowned upon by the estate authorities. This meant that the religion could only be practiced clandestinely and irregularly. Yeah. The result was that some aspects of African religious practices withered away. All right. So we say we're going to highlight two aspects of this now, yeah, which relate to the last two sentences. The first is the idea that African spiritual systems are capable of modification. And this is because, again, of the worldview, yeah? The worldview is about harmony with nature, all right? So effectively, wherever an African spiritual system is situated, it will shape itself according to the natural environment that it is in. Yeah. So if we not have a particular herb, yeah, in a Jamaica, where we did have on the west coast of Africa, we're gonna find one next herb, yeah, where serve the same purpose. And that's it, yeah. If we can practice the thing publicly in the open, yeah, when we use tree, yeah, for conduct ceremony and all them something there, we can't use tree no more because we're in a slavery. So we can't there in the open, yeah. So we have to go find some cave and some hill and gully, yeah, for go practice the thing in that, yeah, and all them something there. If we're not honoring like say we have 300 different, you know, divinity where we acknowledge. We might whittle it down to 20 or 7, yeah, and maybe encapsulate some divinities into other divinities and all them something there for the sake of continuing the thing. All right. And this is because the spiritual systems are not heavy on dogma and doctrine. So, you know, like most of the religion where we know about, yeah, and again, this is not a critique, yeah. This is just a observation, and it's the truth, yeah. So the dominant world religions that we know about in terms of the Abrahamic, they're very doctrinal. They have a specific dogma, and it not supposed to change from what they in the book, yeah. And African spiritual systems, and in fact, most indigenous spiritual systems on the planet have less of an emphasis on strict kind of dogmatic proselytization and more just a way of life that is seeking to be in harmony with nature. I have all on the proceedings because, you know what I mean, big celebrity just jumping on the chat, you know, so we have to big up the legend that is content over everything, you know what I'm saying? Big up yourself, my G, you don't know. And we have to talk still, you know, because we have some unfinished situation to deal with still. All right. So big up yourself, King. So yeah, so there's capable of modification, and this is essential because of the first line here. Indigenous African religious ideas did, however, survive the difficulties of estate life, and that is because of the fact that the capabilities of modification, but also it was a way of life. So there's no department of the community. Yeah, we don't have politics and spirituality separate from politics, or economics and spirituality separate from economics. It was all a part of the people's livity, their lifestyle. And so whenever as it evolved, naturally cultures evolve, and therefore spiritual systems will evolve. All right. And secondly, we're going to focus on this a little bit today, but it's the idea that the fact that the plantation authorities, yeah, the enslaver, the criminal enslaver, didn't just frown upon African spiritual systems, but committed violence against them psychologically and physically, and even passed laws, yeah, to ban certain things. All right. And so that obviously had an impact, yeah, on how things were practiced, and that even means that even contributes to this concept called obia, and what comes to be known as obia, yeah, because if you can't use something in the open, then you're going to use it under the quiet, yeah. And within certain spiritual systems, or there's a light. Nobody knows for sure where the term obia derives from, its etymological root, but some of the suggestions about its derivation suggest that it refers specifically to when a ritual is done under the cloak, yeah, quietly, secretly, rather than publicly for the benefit of the community. All right. So that's one thing we have to deal with, yeah. Big up to Dr. Talawa, yeah, in the building, yeah. One big up Dr. Talawa. You don't know, my brother. Respect Joe, you know what I'm saying. And if you don't know about Dr. Talawa, get to know about Dr. Talawa. You don't know, yeah. A serious brethren in this, all right. So yeah, we'll just touch upon certain things, yeah. As I said, for those who are just coming through, I'm just touching on some aspects of African spiritual systems in the Caribbean, because, you know, I've been wrapped up in some religious conversation recently, and I haven't really gone in on this, but I'm planning a fuller presentation on this topic. So we'll just preview the thing. I'll touch upon it and keep it moving. And most of what we touch on today is going to be taken from the book The History of Religions in the Caribbean by Dale Bisnoff. All right. So let us continue. Him say, given the massive difficulties which the practice of African religion faced in the Caribbean, it must surely be one of the most remarkable things in the region's history that so many aspects of that religion survived. One such aspect was the African belief in the existence of an almighty God. Yeah. So interesting occurrence, yeah, that we can find in the Caribbean is that there are many words for God, or what we might refer to as God, understanding that when we say God, it don't really encapsulate what we mean when we say, you know, words in a free language, yeah. But for communication purposes, God. And so many terms that are used in the Caribbean for God actually come from Africa, yeah. And so the people of West Africa, from among whom the slaves were recruited, and we like to say enslaved Africans. So you might hear me repeat the replace the word slaves with enslaved Africans, because slave tends to dehumanize people, them, our ancestors, and we want to affirm the humanity. So our ancestors were enslaved human beings, enslaved people, enslaved Africans, yeah. Were recruited, from whom the enslaved Africans were recruited, knew this deity by several names. The Akan speaking Ashanti, Fanti, and Brong peoples knew him as Nyame or Nyankopong, yeah. And if you go Jamaica, and you go among the Maroon, them, the Yankono, yeah, the Cromanti, yeah, and yes, and if you're speaking in the Cromanti language, yeah, which is spoken in Jamaica, and Cromanti is a place in West Africa in the region that is now called Ghana. So when we hear Cromanti language in Jamaica, we know it comes from West Africa, yeah. You will still hear among the so-called Maroon them refer to the creator as Nyame or Nyankopong, and I believe Nyankopong is more popular, yeah, or Akompong. And so you have an Akompong town. Some say it's derived from a person called Akompong, which there is a name, Achempong, that could be the case, but some actually suggest that it's actually from the deity, the supreme creator, and the name for the supreme creator, which is Nyankopong, yeah. The Yoruba of the lower Niger, Central Dahomey, and Togoland call him Oludumare or Olorun, yeah. The Ewe speaking Fon of Abome, Alada, and Porto Novo, the Get of Togo, and the Ga of the Gold Coast called him Mawu, yeah. And so you find this word in various different places as well. Especially you find Mawu in some places like Haiti and I believe Suriname as well, and a couple others. But the full terminology is Mawu Lisa Sebo, yeah. And Mawu is the feminine aspect of the creator. Lisa is the masculine, and Sebo is the unseen, yeah. You know what I'm saying? The unseen element, the mysterial element, you know? And then among the Igbos, you have Chuku. And so you'll find different places in the Caribbean, you find all of these names that still exist for the creator, all right? So we'll just touch upon these things, yeah? And so